Welcome to AromaticChat, the podcast that introduces you to registered, clinical, and certified aromatherapists around the world. Every other week, my mom sits down with a different aromatherapist to learn about their aromatic journey and how they use essential oils in their lives and businesses. AromaticChat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and my mom, Melissa, is your host. She is a master transformational coach and a registered aromatherapist.
Hey friends, welcome to podcast episode number 87, Aromatic Chat with vintage aromatherapist Michael Scholes. With over 35 years of experience in essential oil formulating, he specializes in blending over 650 essential oils into over 750 master formulations that can be added to products, that can be used in treatments, and for professional and home use. I am so glad that you tuned in today, and you'll be glad too. So let's get started. Michael, thank you so much for joining me here on Aromatic Chat. I spoke with Gabriel a while back, and he's like, have you spoken with Michael yet? And I said, I have not. Let me get in touch with him. So thank you for saying yes. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Gabriel's a dear friend. We come from the same part of the world. And we have almost the same years, and also we have almost the same way we got in. We both were involved in macrobiotics at the same time. It was kind of uncanny. He's like a brother from another mother. Of course, he's way more older than me, but
way more. Okay. Awesome. Well, the very first thing I love to hear is just your journey. How did you end up where you are in the aromatherapy community? So just take it all the way back and let us know how you got here.
Well, let me go a bit further back than that, because my mother was a healer. Her mother was a healer. When I say healer, my grandmother was a healer before the National Health Service, so she did hands-on healing. My mother was very sensitive to healing, and throughout her life would take homeopathic remedies and different things. And she was really tuned in. I mean, she was really the heart medicine. So having followed her, that's what I align with. And, when I was 15 years old, I was searching for something more than what this environment I was in could give me. In fact, I asked my father one day if he loved my mother on the way to school. And I was not impressed by his response. And I just thought there's something really off with that response that he had. And I just felt there has to be more. So that led to a journey of going into self-discovery and maybe looking a little bit far outside the bandwidth, going a little bit into a place of places where you wouldn't have been looking at that point, from Eastern astrology to all kinds of aspects of life that were not just the physical form. So I was already prepping myself after university, and then I came to America when I was in 1982. And immediately dived into macrobiotics. I dived into psychology. They had the LA Weekly, which had 1,000 courses. And it's like I was now getting my education. So by the time I found aromatics, I'd already gone back to England, had a holistic bed and breakfast on the border between England and Wales, was taking care of people, helping people. We had a holistic bed and breakfast where if you were too sick to travel, then you could come to stay with us. Which means if people had cancer, they couldn't travel because the English food is going to kill you before you get to your destination. So we were able to do that. So I was already very aligned with natural healing. And that's where I began my journey. By the time I found aromatherapy, it was something that I could not have predicted. I was at the end of a marriage. I was in a place where there was a void. I went to London to pick up some supplies, and on the way out, went to a holistic fair that was advertised across with a banner across the street that looked like most people keep driving. I pulled over, and I went into this center where they had this health fair, and there was a bunch of tables, and one table had a whole bunch of bottles on it, and I was like, "Wow, what is this?" Two guys are there, and they're talking to me about essential oils, and they would pick up an oil, smell it, and tell me all about it. And I think I don't comprehend how you could know so much about something I know nothing about. How could they have not crossed my path? And at the end of that 3-hour conversation, I never got past that table. I agreed to promote a class. And you have to understand, these two guys looked at me like, you're crazy, man. It's like, who does that? I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never promoted anything before. This is before the internet, before cell phones. There was you couldn't even go to places to get photocopies. I mean, it was just was a wasteland. And those two people ended up being Dr. Pennywell and Pierre Francom. And the week before, in a English magazine, on the inside back cover, there was an article about French aromatherapy, and in the article was these two. I never paid any attention. In the article was an article written by Pierre Francom and Daniel Pennywell. So to be in London a week later, that was not something by chance. And it was, I would tell people, if I was going to be studying religion and the first person I met was the Pope, you'd be thinking, well, that's a pretty good endorsement for religion.
Right.
So this was an amazing first step. And Daniel and Pierre both gave me the credit for bringing the French aromatic medical model to the English-speaking world. Because at that point, it was only in France. They were attempting to get into the US. Very soon after, by the way, it ended up being in the US. And from the minute I met those two guys, I said to myself, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I don't even know where that voice came from, but I trust that voice. I hear it quite a bit on things. This is going to be forever. And I'm one of those people is I'm either all in or all out. There is no midway. So you go forward now to 34 years of doing that, where all I've done for 34 years is to study and practice and teach this subject. I added up, it comes to like 100,000 hours of investment on every layer, because not only was it Daniel and Pierre, it then branched into other people, which we'll talk about a little later.
I'm a firm believer in providence as well. Nothing happens by chance. Serendipity. You were meant to be there at that moment. And I love what you said. How could these guys know so much about something I've never even heard of?
It's really true. And by the way, that class happened a month later.
A month later.
At a naturopathic university in London, where we rented a small room and we got 30 people. Shirley Price, Robert Tisserand, and all the major players in the English speaking, who were really vendors more than they were teachers, they were all there. And it was a translation from English to French, French back to English. And I never saw anybody move. They just glued, like they'd found the Holy Grail and they needed to know where it came from, how to use it, where it's going.
I love talking to our vintage aromatherapists, of which you are one, because you were doing this before it was a thing.
Correct.
You guys are the ones that paved the way for everyone else who's gone to any one of the myriad of schools out there now. So I love hearing your stories. I love the name dropping. This is just, I love the name dropping. So great. Because, I sat down with Marge Clark. I've sat down with Marge Clark before, and she did the same thing, talking about all of the people that she had studied with and under. And it's just inspiring because, I went to the American College of Healthcare Sciences. I got my certification through them, and all of the names that you're saying are names that were part of that curriculum. It's inspiring. Correct. Do you realize that do you realize how inspiring
I have to pinch myself
is?
Sometimes. I literally have to pinch myself and say, because, we were in there in the beginnings. It wasn't going to be forever. This period of time, we were like a startup company that got it started, revved it up. I mean, somebody said to me, what do you do any teaching? I said, yeah, I've done 1,000 classes plus in 5 continents. And, are you familiar with Young Living and Gary Young? He's supposed to be good. And then I hate to say it sometimes, but I go, yeah, Gary Young was one of my students. And people go, what? Yeah, he came to one of Marcel Labab and myself. We did a 5-day certification, and he came along. And Gary was Gary. He was had amazing presence. He had a vision, but there was a choice I had to make at that moment, because Gary and I talked about his vision, and his vision didn't align with me. So I decided to go more the educational route. This is before products existed. Mm-hmm. And Gary, of course, went to Young Living. And I don't have any regrets for that. Money was never why I got involved in this business. I wanted to have a free conscience to be able to tell people and share with people without them to sell. I don't like the idea of bait and switch. I'm going to tell you what your problem is, and now I'm going to give you the solution and send me some money. Even though I have a money model, it's really low key. Mm-hmm. I love all things aromatic. And it's never wavered. I haven't done anything in my life for 34 years that has been consistently here, like I just began today talking to you.
34 years. Most people, I think young people especially, can't even imagine spending 34 years doing one thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could show you this room. It's got I got 250 books and every journal ever written up until they stopped producing journals, and every single class I ever taught in paper. I recorded this is a little crazy, just between me and you, don't tell anybody. I recorded every single class I did from the beginning to now. It's you can't even carry it. It's so heavy. And I don't know why it's supposed to be some kind of legacy, but if I was to go back over all those recordings, I would find all the things that I came to the conclusion with, that I came to that conclusion, not just based on what I thought, but answering the same question over and over, and then expanding upon it, and then getting these insights that would just pop up in the middle of a class. And then somebody would go, wow, it's amazing you said that. And then I'd say, oh, I need to write that down, but never did. These were the moments of truth that were really changing people's perspective and expanding their minds beyond the essential oil. As long as you focus on the essential oil, you really don't really see the whole point. I love the fact that you share a few times in your, maybe every time, where you talk about God gave us these amazing plants. Praise to the plants. And we're the only end users. Praise the plants. And of course, I'm a real believer too, that the human body has the capacity to heal every single thing that synthetic world and crazy the world can bring to us. We have that ability. We have that ability to transmute everything. So I'm not ever worried about dying of toxins and so forth. And then we forget that it's built into our system. And we, like Gabriel said before, and I align with this, we coexist and we co-created together, which means that every single molecule produced by a plant is compatible with our own receptors. They're looking for us. We're looking for them. So we can completely keep changing and modifying and expanding beyond the physical. I've always shared that the people who get the most out of essential oils are the people who are healthy and the healthiest, because you expand beyond your physical body, and then you start to look at the realms. I'm not talking about God or spirituality, but looking beyond the problem, like we have to do in all states of affairs. And the people who are in the sickness model, or people who are in recovery, have to spend all that energy to maybe get well or not.
Right.
There's a whole new world to think that, that if you were to tune into these molecules, what are they telling us? They're telling us to calm down, be quiet, trusting something greater than yourself, go beyond the greed, go beyond the money, go beyond the limitation, just be receptive, and then go inside yourself and say, what does that look like when the world is not running on that frequency? And for what reason? The heart. Everything I smell, which has been, I have almost 750 oils in my library. Every one of them is in my facility, and every one that I smell changes the way I think and feel about my life. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I don't have problems, it doesn't mean I don't have trauma, doesn't mean all those things. It changes the way I feel. And why? Because they're working in the background, in the foreground. They're working infinitely to break me free and find the ultimate peace. And in peace, you can do anything. In chaos, only chaos comes out of chaos.
Are you still teaching?
I do some master classes. I'm looking to do some partnerships with people in the future. I'd like to share the stage. I have a friend of mine in Germany who was works for a homeopathic company, and we're thinking about doing a class where we bring in the esoteric part and the level of understanding I have with somebody who teaches the science. So you can combine both aspects. So you've got a more balanced. And I did a master class in New York with Amy, which was a 14-month master class. And then I did a master class on perfumery and blending. And now my main focus now is trauma. So I'd like to put the remaining days that I have into helping people who were dealing with trauma and addiction and anxiety and PTSD and ADD. And I don't teach what I don't know. And I only teach what I've gone through. I'm not like maybe in the beginning, the first class I ever taught, I was scared out of my wits to teach this class until I realized that the 1% I knew more than the group was enough to get me through the program. Yeah. I feel every single thing that I have gone through, and I want to present it in a way where I can help, because it seems to be trauma. It seems to now be the center of all our health problems. If you're in stress and you've got leaky gut, or you've got pre-dementia, or you've got inflammation, it's not going away until you deal with the trigger, and the trauma seems to be the trigger. I mean, the trauma piece is such a core part of our culture, but it doesn't go anywhere except into the psychedelics and all the medication that now it's almost like you need the serotonin to help you sleep better, to help increase dopamine, but it's just an endless loop back to your trauma.
Correct.
And this is why I mean, I've done a lot of therapy in my life. I spent 40 years looking and doing. I did primal scream therapy in Los Angeles back in 1982. I mean, Tears for Fears were in the next room, with their music. And that wasn't the answer, but it was a real key to this amazing man, Dr. Arthur Janoff, who talked about it wasn't people just screaming, but it talked about how you connect with that feeling. But it's not enough, because what you will end up doing is you get it out of your system, and then what happens is you think you're a stage further, but then you trigger it again, it goes back. That's why the essential oils for me are incredible. It doesn't really matter what essential oils you use, because the body knows its own intelligence, and it knows how to get things from something that doesn't contain what you're looking for. It has a way of those molecules and aromatic molecules. We don't really know to the degree it works, but my whole thinking about it is that the essential oils themselves contain something, but alchemically our bodies are able to transmute and change something from one thing to another to fill the void that keeps us in the stressful place, that keeps us in a sickness model.
Yes, you need to continue teaching. Absolutely. Absolutely, you need to continue teaching, because people need to hear this more than just the people who listen to my podcast. People need to hear that they have the power. They actually have the power to heal themselves. I say it all the time, but I'm one small corner of the world. So,
well, it's interesting, because in order you've got a whole generation of people using essential oils, looking for the perfect essential oil, the perfect species, and I understand that from a connoisseur point of view in terms of blending. But it may be that you can get most of what you want from a few essential oils.
Right.
It doesn't matter, whatever the receptor is attracting. And what is a receptor looking for? It's looking for the chemistry that will help recalibrate you, so you can then be back in your center, so then you can continue to do what it is your passion is about. But it's the subtlety behind these essential oils. It's how they work. It's on a level that I don't think most people can comprehend. Because as long as you stay stuck to, I put this essential on my burn. I mean, I get emails. What oil do I put on this? I said, well, what's behind? Because what is behind the problem is 40 different things in your physical body and chemical body that are astray, that are not combining themselves in a way where you can actually look at the larger picture, which is, forget being healthy. What are you going to do if you became healthy? If we never get to health, then we can stay stuck in the place where, well, we haven't got the energy, or we don't have the focus, or I don't have the capacity to be consistent. I'm talking about, let's start at the place where you're already calm. Let's start at the place where you're already not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Let's start at the place where we're capable of going to the next step. And what is the next step? Where we can really make change in this world, one person at a time.
750 different oils in your apothecary.
Yeah, and 1,750 formulas.
754. And you're a
1,750.
1,750 formulas.
Over 33 years.
Crazy.
By the way, the formulas I use now are the same ones. I've never changed the formula. When I make something, I never alter it. And some of those things were made 33 years ago, and I've added some based on demand, and I've also based on my own personal. They're all part of every blend I made was made for me, by the way. I got a lot of problems, apparently. I am the test crash dummy of aromatherapy, which means that I have tried and tested everything on me. I have yet to have a headache or a skin irritation.
Tell us about something that you've done as a perfumer that was just really amazing for you.
Well, I made the biggest thing was the World Sensorium. That was the global perfume. That was the one that my colleague and good friend Gail Knowles from New York, she came to one of my classes, by the way, 2 years before, and 2 years later she came to me and said, I've got a project and I think you're the only one who can do it. I have to find a way to mix over 140 essential oils together from 225 countries and put them in together and make a blend that would represent change as in the millennium. 2000, it was going to be released. It was released in ticker tape in little squares that in the strike of midnight in Times Square, they released these 50,000 strips. And the idea being is the first second it hit the ground, you picked it up, you pulled off the strip and you smelled it. And that was based, by the way, on the world population. The blend was based on if 40% of the world was from India, then whatever India chose, which was jasmine, would be in the blend. And if you're some Polynesian island somewhere that only had a few thousand people, only one drop would make the blend. And we made it in this massive vat in New York. It took Gail about 5 years to research, based on going to all the different countries and asking them, what is the plant that represents your country? And then if it was aromatic, we could distill it. It took me 6 months to do the math and 3 full days to make the blend. This blend was like $50,000-$60,000 worth of oil. We're pouring oils in this vat for 3 days carefully. Everybody was like, no idea. Is this going to smell like a soup where you put too many vegetables in it? Is this going to smell like, well, it could be better. Can we take something out? No, this was a one-time deal. And that blend, you should, if people are interested, you just go to Wikipedia and put in World Sensorium and you'll see the whole history. That blend went around the world, went to exhibits, even got to the Vatican. I'm not sure if the Pope smelled it. That might have been maybe that was the last smell he had before he went into Nirvana. I don't know, but it went around the world as a peace offering and a change in that this was 2000 was the year where we were going to change everything. And by the way, that's still taking place. And then a second blend I made was for a beautiful hotel in Virginia, and I made their signature scent for their hotel and spa, and that blend was based on a review of the scenography of the location. So I made a blend that represented the earth. And because it was Virginia, there's some tobacco in there, there's some cedarwood in there from Virginia, and a whole bunch of other wild bergamot and different things. But that blend is, I believe, that's my greatest personal creation.
So I was actually just going to ask you, what's your favorite blend? Like, if you think back over all the blends of the last over 33 years, do you have a favorite?
It's impossible. You're asking me to choose between my 750 children.
I know. I'm so
which
sorry.
one's the favorite. But I have what I have done is I created a new. I took 100 of those 1,750 that I felt were the best blends I'd made, and I put them into. I created a website called rollandremedy.com, and these 100 blends, if you took them all and laid them end to end, would be the personal journey you would go through in your life. It's just that the way what you would choose would be different than what I would choose. But they come into the categories 10 different oils for the physical, the emotional, the psychological, the mental, stress, anxiety, spiritual, feminine, masculine. And I put them together in a way where you could figure out where you want to be, where you are now. And then in 3 months' time, you get 10 other ones that you could then move into what you're working on. So if you're now working on the immunity or restorative, or finding a way to build your immune system. But next, once you've developed that, maybe you want to take a look at your masculine or your feminine. Then you want to look at your emotions, your stress level. You want to look at your mental focus. And of course, eventually you'll end up getting to the spiritual. And also in there is a mixture of blends that work on the mind connect, which is your a balance and a counterbalance. So you may have one blend for ADD, but then you have another blend as a restoring point where you could use one to restore order and another one to move you out of that mental thinking. But I feel that's my, I am so happy to have created that, because it really is a journey where the blend guides you to where you need to go next by looking at 100 different aspects of your life.
Beautiful. What are you working on right now that's got you really excited?
Besides the Roll and Remedy, I'm working on creating in the Lab of Flowers website. I'm working on identifying my personal relationship with that oil and writing down what I feel that oil does for you, beyond what you already know. My project now, what really excites me, is to write down what I feel that oil does overall from my personal experience of having blended with it, used it, researched it, formulated with it, to find something that's a little bit more connected to my personal journey, as opposed to the endless lists of what something will do for you. And then, by the way, there's no limit to what I will buy. I mean, if I see something, I get it. I mean, I've got, I found some green frankincense, some emerald frankincense that comes from green resin that people may not be familiar with. I found a cypress wood from Nepal that is to die for. And you think to yourself, how did that one tree get to that mountain? And what's it supposed to teach us? Because when we look at the limitations of where we extract the oils, we think about juniper, for instance. We think about the berries versus the needles. I have an oil that contains the berries, the needles, and the wood. So it's a complete product. And with the cypress wood, what does that blend tell me about its location? Why did it evolve in that particular location? Why is it that a cypress wood from some other place in the world doesn't smell the same? What is the chemistry doing, and what's it saying? What's it screaming out on the top of that mountain for us to do? Because when we think about spirituality, we do think about frankincense. We do think about maybe galbanum. We also think about rose, and we think about sandalwood. But these are just the basic 4 to 5 oils. I'm talking about go outside your comfort zone into the realms of things that you never heard of before. And you might find on your journey that you'll find something that completely aligns with your life, personal. And then if you find something else that you think mixes with it, why not make yourself a personal creation that you call your signature fragrance? And it contains everything you want to achieve in this moment for your life, whether it's to calm yourself down, or to be more creative, more loving, more open, more sexy, whatever that is. There's no limit. You know the permutations that you can create for 750 essential oils? It's like billions of different possibilities. So why are we stuck talking about the same 12 or 25 essential oils when if you talk about me and say, listen, Michael, you've got 25 things I can see in you. How about I see 25,000 things that make you who you are, that requires something so unbelievably different than what you've been using. You can't get out of those 25 oils what you're looking for, because nature placed itself in different places where the clues are about how, but you don't even have to go to those places. You can actually take those fragrances, put them together in a way where you can actually change your cells. You may be the only person who can change you into you and become so unique because you've got something that isn't off the shelf or something generic, where you put it on, you say, this is my customized fragrance that basically is my avatar. It's where I go out in the world, but I'm aligning with my avatar, becoming my avatar, where my mission in this lifetime is to, and don't put make money at the end of it. What is your gift for humanity? And even if it's helping people in death and dying, or helping people who are in assisted living, or people who are end of life, or which I just mentioned, or it could be not for performing for athletes, but how about using those essential oils so people can be fluid and mobile? How about dealing with essential oil blends that help with grief, where if you get rid of the grief, which is deeply in there, that grief will kill you. You notice, but you hear stories all the time of people who nurse somebody for years and then they die, and they die soon after. Yeah. Grief is the unexpressed pain of being human. What would it be like if you could find several different oils that help you process all the layers of grief, where when you remove yourself from the grief, you can breathe and then want to take that out and help other people who are suffering in that area.
So you said earlier you're an all or nothing guy. There's got to be more than just aromatherapy. What are some of your other passions? What are some other things that you love
Okay,
doing?
well, here we go. When I was a young boy in this part of the north of England, I did 3 things that were the only things I think kept me sane. One was riding my bike. I had a 3-wheeler bike that I rode around the neighborhood. Felt good about that. One was swimming. Hmm. And I used to go to the swimming pool by myself. I don't know what my parents were, but at 10 years old, I would have to get on a bus to go to the swimming pool 3-4 nights a week, and I would swim underwater. And I would try to do as many breaths underwater as I could, because I felt like if I could just, my father had tuberculosis, by the way, when he was in his 20s. And something in me said that I got to really build my lungs so I don't die of the same grief that he died of. And then the third thing was singing. So if the 3 things I did, well, that's what I do now. I swim. I ride my 3 bikes now that I have on, Virginia has like 7,000 miles of bike paths or something. I'm in a barbershop chorus. So every Thursday night, which includes tonight, I go 10 miles and meet with a group of guys, and we sing every one of those songs that you love to hear in harmony. Now, you think it's simple to sing, when you have four voices coming together and it has to be harmonious, that is the definition of a blend. And when it works, it will change your cells. And of course, what is singing really good for? Harmonizing the vagus nerve, which is at the center of our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's what I do. I also kayak. And in addition to that, by the way, 2 years ago, I like hiking too. 2 years ago, I took myself on a 5-year expedition where I crossed the Taltikian Mountains in Alaska in July in the snow.
Wow.
So those are the things. By the way, I don't want to do anything organized. I do not like organized classes. I don't like 1 hour of yoga. I want to be able to just pop out for 10 minutes on my bike or 30 minutes for swimming. So that works out good.
That's awesome. Amazing. Okay, so one of the main mission of Aromatic Chat is to connect people. So how can people find you, what you're doing in the world, and like when you do start, when you're teaching, like how can they participate in your master classes? How can they find you?
Okay, so I am like low key in terms of the whole social media thing. I would like to go back to a fax machine and a pager, but I know that I'm in the 21st century. So I have laboflowers.com. That's where the 750 essential oils and a bunch of other things I created, the 5 elements and so forth, and the blends, not all of them. Then I have rollonremedy.com, which is where you can look at the journey of where you want to go, and I do it. I haven't put it on there yet, but I do consultations too to help people, guide people to. I have a system that I use to help to identify where I can help you to get to the next stage. And then I have michaelscholes.com, where if you want to know all the aspects of what I do. But lavaflowers.com has a space there which says if you would like to receive information, you can put your email in there.
As we close out the podcast, I always like to just hand the floor over to my guest. If you have any final words or you feel like I missed something, just whatever you'd like to share, this is your time.
All right. I wrote something that I'm going to read. I haven't written anything. Not because I don't have things to write about, but I don't want to write something that's been written. I want to write something that's unique to my journey, even though parts of it, there's nothing new under the sun. So I'm working on that. And at some point, something will come out of that. So I appreciate that. So on their own, essential oils will not save you, make you happy, or make you financially stable. They will not save you from yourself. What they will do is help you to balance your internal chemistry, clear your mind, calm your soul, de-stress your anxiety, open your heart, and help you find stillness within. From stillness comes peace. From peace comes faith. So that's the one thing. And the other thing I wanted to say is that use essential oils daily, apply them often, repeat as often as you can. When you have an uninterrupted use of essential oils, they will remain with you, inside you, and will be there in the background, ready to counterbalance whatever you are feeling, ever reminding you to love one another, and specifically yourself, and to keep your heart open, and to serve humanity through grace.
Oh, Michael, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed speaking with you and hearing about everything you're doing in the world of aromatherapy. Your passion shines through. Just amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you for reaching out. Thank you for Gabriel, who connected me, and thank you to your listeners. And I know you're doing an amazing job in aligning what you do well and bringing it to the world. And I know that you have to do that from passion. There's not enough money you could be given that would have to put this together, because I know there's a lot to do behind the scenes. But I really appreciate you inviting me on and to share my perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, Michael, you're amazing. How can someone know so much about something you have never heard of? Have you ever felt that way? You come across someone who just seems to know things and you feel like a total outsider. How can someone know so much? Well, after focusing on aromatherapy for over 35 years, Michael has now become the one who knows so much. What if you found your passion and decided, this is it? This is the thing I'm going to do with the time I have on this planet. Do you know what your passion is? Sometimes it's helpful to find someone who knows so much and join their circle, like Michael did with Dr. Penwell and Pierre Francombe. There's a saying that goes, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. When my kids were little, I asked them one day, do you know what your job is as a kid? They thought about it and then they said, going to school. And I told them, no, school is just something you have to do. We have to do things in life, right? Sometimes things we don't enjoy, but we do them because we need to do them, because we have to do them. That's what school is. School is so you can learn. But your job as a kid is to look at the adults around you and decide. Decide who you want to be like and who you don't want to be like. That's your job when you're a kid. And I would contend that that is still our job as adults. Decide. Become who you want to be. You have that power within. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Michael Scholes. What an inspiration to be able to talk to Michael, learn about his journey and his passions. I will include all of the links to connect with Michael in the show notes. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and I'm your host, Melissa, transformational coach, registered aromatherapist, and certified emotion code practitioner. I invite you to connect with me on the web at lemonbalmcoaching.com and Instagram at lemonbalmcoaching. I will see you next time with our next episode. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.